Alright everybody, this is Sky of Drake Design Studios, and today we are making Dragonfly barrettes. There will be two sizes, a smaller one for smaller buns and a smaller amount of hair, short hair. A larger one, which also makes it easier to see the design I'm painting, will be for longer hair and larger buns. In this stage right here, I have already ran them through my X-Tool laser, and I'm just cutting them out, trimming them up, and getting them ready. I put blue tape over the designs, so that way I can actually get the charcoal off. I'm actually using my wooden burnisher to gently burnish the tape into the designs, so that way they are less messy to deal with. At this point, I'm using silver paint. This one's a folk art paint. I'm actually doing the wings first, so that way I can get a nice layer of silver down before I do the other colors, trying to aim for the iridescent effects with even my non-color change iridizing paints that I'm using. This paint's actually pretty good to use. My favorite thing to do is to just shake up the bottle, open up the cap. I'm using a really fine tip paintbrush for this, so what little amount there is in the cap is absolutely perfect for my needs. So this is going to go on for a little bit longer. Now at about this point, I have actually finished off the wings with the silver paint, and I am getting ready to go through and use more colors. The X-Acto knife I had previously used to scrape away between sections of paint if I accidentally got it on the lines. This is where I'm using the Liquitex iridizer with flat paint. I like it. It does lighten the paint a little bit, so be aware of that. It's really not all that noticeable unless you've been working with it for a really, really long time. I started out with a dark green in order to start filling in the leaves and the grass of the design. I just want to make sure that I've got a nice little effect going. Bit of a dimensional effect by starting with the darker color first. This is about where I'm getting ready for putting the lighter shade of green on as soon as I am done with the darker bits. There we go. I also mixed in iridizer and in a little bit of the other paint as well. Now, I do want to add that it is going to look like I've got a lot of paint on here, and I do. Fear not, none of the paint actually goes to waste. I have a canvas that I use for different techniques and whatnot, building up the paint. So I'm actually not wasting any paint. I'm using it for further learning, even though I'm done with, what I'm doing it here. And I will also set up other paintings as well, so if I'm painting things with similar colors, I will actually start doing that just to, save paint. So a little thing with painting, as you can tell here, I'm actually using a little bit of the green and putting it into the wings to kind of mimic the iridescent effect and color changing effect. Right there is Deco Arts. Color shifts. It goes from green to gold. It's really nice. It's actually really great for adding accents. I like to use it as kind of a glaze effect, just to make things pop a little bit, add a little extra attention here and there. Alright, so as you can tell, I am using that X-Acto knife again. I accidentally got some silver on the lines for the wings, so I actually try to avoid having that. I really want the lines to be nice and crispy. Having a little bit of the iridizer or the iridescentness with what I'm mixing in to the paints is actually... I like having that in the lines. I prefer that for something like the flowers that are on the other side of the wings, not for the wings themselves. Again, as you can tell, I'm adding the iridescent to the darker color, and truth be told, having your paints mixed, or in this case, poured, when you go to mix in your iridizer, the iridizer does make it a little bit lighter, and you want to control that. Overall, though, when you are mixing paints, you are taking the hue. It is best to actually take that hue and add that to your lighter colors to tone them down, or add black or a darker color to your pure hue to tone that down. You don't ever want to try and go the opposite direction, adding your whites, your iridescents, or your pure hues to your darker colors, or to your hues to make a tint. If you want to make a tint, you want to actually just simply take your lightest color, your white, or even the iridizer and add just a little bit of your pure hue for making tints. You actually waste less paint that way when you are adding dark to light versus light to dark. Now, there is quite a bit of paint on here, and again, I actually do have plans for it, and I did use it, so nothing did go to waste. I try to minimize waste as much as possible when I'm painting. Number one, okay, it's got the eco-friendly thing on it. Number two, it conserves my money. You know, the less I waste, the less money I'm wasting. So, I'm going to address the fact that the larger one has outlines for holes on it. Those are actually going to be guide points for making the actual holes for the stick that goes through. With the smaller barrettes, the hole is actually going to be, you know, through the circle parts around it. With the larger barrette, that's not going to be the case. What I'm going to do is, because the leather on the larger barrette is thinner, after I'm done molding it, and then trimming the edges and burnishing the edges and molding it a second time, I'm going to glue a piece of scrap leather onto the underside of that to make it thicker, and then I am going to put little tabs further bolstering that section before I put in the holes. And then what I'm going to do is, since I'm not going to be cutting out that entire oval section, I'm going to actually paint that in so that way it looks like it's got a larger hole, when in truth it does not. It's got a double reinforced smaller one on there. And the iridescent purple paint you're seeing right here is, again, it's an FX. It's the color shift. I actually like it. It's thin enough for a glaze. I've actually used it with airbrushing to make a literal glaze on some of my paintings. I do recommend grabbing it, and I am not an affiliate with anyone. These are just things I enjoy using because I find they are worth the money I'm paying for them. And maybe I'll become an affiliate of these in the future, maybe not. I'm still absolutely debating, but for right now, this is stuff I like. So, by about this point, I'm using another FX one, the Color Shift Blue, for the body of the Dragonfly. And as I have been the whole time, pulling the colors onto the wings themselves, just to, you know, make them nice and give it an extra bit of an iridescence to it, because normal Dragonfly wings are transparent generally, so that's kind of hard to do. Now, I actually decided I was going to do the iridizer directly on the circle that is around the Dragonfly, because I wanted to give it a little bit of that extra oomph and pop So that way, you know, as leather ages and turns darker, gets that nice creaminess to it. I want to make sure that the design can always pop and catch attention and just look great. After I'm done with the molding process, the first molding process, I will be, you know, trimming the edges, burnishing the edges, and I will also be burnishing the backside of the smaller one. And when I'm done gluing the reinforcements that I want to put onto the larger one, I will be burnishing that too before, you know, and after doing the final molding correction. I'm going to be doing the burnishing after the second molding. I flipped the script around on myself and blew up. It happens to the best of us. But there will be a primary molding, and then there will be a secondary molding. At this point, this paint is dry. It took a while, and yep, just going to spray the backs, going to spray the front, make sure it's all nice and damp for this first molding. I'm actually using the insides of coffee cups, just because I can. I want to get that nice, you know, cup shape going on there. And truth be told, molding a simple shape like this is fairly easy. I mean, I'm only doing a simple curve. So, getting it wet, getting it... you don't want it absolutely sopping wet, because it'll harden too fast. There's me popping it around the outside a little bit. That's just to get the shape started. And then I'm just popping it in the inside. Part of it was also to check to see how damp it was. If there was any water squishing out when I pressed it on the outside, then I had too much going. But there we go. There's the first one. And the second one actually required a larger cup. Just because this is larger. So I just simply used a root beer float mug that I had laying around the house from etching glass. And I did the same trick there. I'm wetting it down, double checking, making sure it's nice and damp, but not sopping wet so it's not dripping everywhere. It was drying fairly quickly-ish. And again, putting it around the outside just to start the bend, because it's a more severe curve on the inside than the outside because of the thickness of the glass. So, there's that done. Now here, I actually took pictures at different angles for each one. I am going to be leaving them nice and long, so you can see where I also pulled the colors that I had used in the rest of the Dragonfly to the wings to kind of give it that iridescent effect. So, again, different angle, and it's going to be shining slightly differently. There's also going to be a third angle, you know, going from the other side. And I actually love how this all turned out. top side, from the left side, from the right side of both barrettes. As you can tell, there's a lot of shimmery, there's a lot of shiny. I'm liking how these are looking. The next video is going to be showing me beveling the edges, getting them all nice and smooth, and then remolding them, as well as gluing the reinforcements onto the larger one. So, if you like what you see, give me a like, give me a subscribe, hit the bell button, and I'll see you the next round.